From our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Aylia Batool. Russia will do everything to make U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran impossible. This and more on today's show, so stay tuned. Experts say Israel's expanding war is not only about Iran's nuclear program, but about reshaping the balance of power across the Middle East. In an opinion piece for the UK-based Middle East Eye, co-founder and editor David Hurst argues the killing of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and senior officials signaled a campaign aimed at regime change and dismantling Iran as a regional power. He says Hamas, Hezbollah, and now Iran have been picked off in turn, each confronting Israel separately rather than in coordination. Hurst writes that Tehran has now shifted tactics from last June's 12-day confrontation and is waging a broader campaign. He suggests the U.S. and Israel's killing of Khamenei during Ramadan could rejuvenate the Iranian revolution and harden resolve. Hurst noted a prolonged war could hurt President Donald Trump politically among his MAGA base. New York-based author Azad Issa says Delhi has emerged as Israel's strongest non-Western ally, citing strategic and ideological convergence that deepened during Israel's genocide in Gaza. He notes that India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi pledged to send 50,000 more Indian workers to Israel, while Indian co-produced weapons with Israel, potentially offsetting labor and military gaps. Hurst warns that if Iran collapses, civil war and refugee flows could destabilize the Gulf, allowing Israel to redraw the region's map. He notes that it is only a matter of time before Netanyahu declares Turkey to be Israel's next Amalek or staunch enemy. U.S. and Israeli strikes in Iran have repeatedly hit schools, raising fears of a troubling pattern and heavy child casualties. Iran's foreign ministry's spokesperson Ismail Bighai says an elementary school near Niloufar Square in Tehran was struck on Friday. He posted a video that he says shows Shahid Hamedani School before and after the attack. No casualty figures were given. Earlier, the Shajar Tayyibeh Girls' School in Minab was hit on the first day of the campaign on Saturday. UN experts say 160 children and 5 staff were killed there. State media also report missile strikes on 2 schools in Baran, southwest of Tehran. Images show damaged classrooms and nearby homes. UNICEF says at least 181 children are among more than 1,300 people killed in U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran so far. Washington claims it is investigating the Minab incident. UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk has called for a fast, transparent inquiry, warning that deliberate attacks on schools would be a war crime. A prominent Saudi Arabian editor says not all recent attacks on Gulf states may be coming from Iran. He is raising concerns that other actors could be trying to expand the conflict. Speaking in a televised interview, Adwan al-Ahmari, editor-in-chief of Independent Arabia, said there are growing claims of false flag operations. He suggested some strikes could be designed to drag Gulf countries into confrontation with Tehran. Ahmari said some believe this war is an American-Israeli trap to implicate the Gulf countries and draw them into a confrontation with Iran. He warned that Gulf states hosting U.S. military facilities could be left in an open confrontation if Washington declares its goals achieved and withdraws. Ahmari said the shifting timelines of the U.S. campaign have added to the uncertainty. He also described Iran's attacks on Gulf nations as suicidal behavior, given its economic crisis and internal unrest. His remarks reflect rising anxiety in the region over who is truly behind the attacks and whether Gulf states are being pushed to take sides in a widening war. Iran's Red Crescent says U.S. and Israeli forces have carried out 1,332 attacks across the country since Saturday. The attacks targeted 636 locations, including at least 105 civilian sites. The humanitarian group says the strikes hit 14 medical facilities and 7 Red Crescent buildings. It adds that at least 174 cities have been affected, raising concerns over the safety of civilians and aid workers. According to analysts at the Colorado-based Payne Institute, the U.S. and Israel have fired more than 3,000 precision-guided munitions and interceptor missiles on Iran. Iran has responded with more than 1,000 weapons across the region. These included around 380 ballistic missiles, nearly 700 Shahid drones, and about 50 air defense missiles. The update comes as U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said a war with Iran could last up to 8 weeks. Speaking at the Pentagon, he said the United States has sufficient military equipment and is prepared for a prolonged conflict if necessary. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Thursday his country will do everything to create an atmosphere that would make U.S.-Israeli operations against Iran impossible. Lavrov was speaking at an ambassadors' roundtable amidst the escalating crisis, which began on Saturday, when the U.S. and Israel began bombing Iran, killing hundreds, including over 160 children. He said Russia would prevent further military escalation by continuing to engage in dialogue with regional countries and the international community. Lavrov added that he has no doubts that one of the goals of striking Iran was to divide the countries of the Persian Gulf and to divide Iran and its Arab neighbors. A U.S. submarine in international waters torpedoed an Iranian warship, killing at least 84 sailors and triggering a political storm in India. The ship was returning home after attending a major multinational naval exercise in India. The frigate IRIS Dina had participated in India-led Milan 2026 exercises alongside more than 40 vessels from more than 70 countries. Iran's foreign minister described the ship as a guest of India's navy and condemned the strike as an atrocity. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has not issued a public statement, prompting opposition leader Mallikarjun Kharge to accuse the government of abandoning India's strategic and diplomatic responsibilities. New Delhi now finds itself caught between Iran and the United States as tensions widen. In contrast, Sri Lanka, an island nation far smaller than India, swiftly launched rescue operations. Its navy saved 32 sailors, recovered dozens of bodies, and later granted refuge to another Iranian vessel, IRIS Bushehr, after it sought assistance. Sri Lanka's humanitarian response is drawing widespread international praise. Judge freezes Florida order labeling CAIR a terrorist group. Details coming up next. Welcome back. A California candidate seeking a seat in the House of Representatives is facing mounting questions over her past political donations. Rahi Israni is running in the Democratic primary to replace Congressman Eric Swalwell, who is leaving the seat to run for governor. She announced raising nearly $2 million within weeks of launching her campaign in the strongly Democratic district. But the identities of many donors are not yet public. An investigation by Jacqueline Sweet published in The Intercept found that Israni previously donated to more than 10 conservative Republican candidates. Among those who received donations from Israni were far-right anti-Muslim activist Laura Loomer and several figures aligned with President Donald Trump. Records show contributions to candidates who backed efforts to overturn the 2020 election, opposed abortion rights, and promoted Islamophobia and education policy. The report also details Israni's links to Hindu nationalist advocacy networks in the United States and her opposition to proposed caste discrimination legislation in California. Israni claims her past donations were not ideological endorsements and insists she rejects extremist politics. Rival candidate Aisha Wahab says voters will closely examine whether her record matches her rhetoric ahead of her May primary. A federal judge in Florida has temporarily stopped Governor Ron DeSantis from enforcing an executive order that labeled the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, a terrorist organization. In a ruling, Judge Mark Walker said the governor had no authority to unilaterally designate one of the nation's largest Muslim civil rights group as a terrorist entity. The court found the move likely violated free speech protections under the First Amendment. DeSantis' orders threatened to deny government contracts, funding, and public benefits to individuals or groups linked to CAIR. The judge said that amounted to coercing third parties to cut ties with the organization. CAIR, founded in 1994 and headquartered in Washington, sued after the order was issued. The group called the decision an important victory for the Constitution and accused the governor of trying to punish supporters through political posturing. New U.S. government data shows that since October, the only refugees legally resettled in the United States have been white South Africans. According to the State Department's latest arrival report, 1,651 people were admitted under the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program between October 2025 and the end of January 2026. All but 3 were from South Africa. The 3 others were Afghan refugees, whose status has since been suspended. That marks a sharp drop from the same period a year earlier, when nearly 38,000 refugees were admitted, many from the Middle East, South Asia, and Africa. On his first day back in office, President Donald Trump suspended refugee processing, leaving hundreds of thousands in limbo. He later created an exception for white South Africans, claiming they face discrimination. Experts say the policy created a racial double standard, as refugees from Syria, Sudan, and Afghanistan remain blocked. Some of them are facing detention or deportation under new immigration measures. A group of Democratic lawmakers has reintroduced the Save Medicare Act, aiming to stop private insurers from using the word Medicare to market Medicare Advantage plans. The bill would impose significant fines on companies that continue to use the federal program's name in advertising. Lawmakers say insurers flood the airwaves during open enrollment, blurring the line between traditional Medicare and private plans. Representative John Szakowski says Medicare Advantage plans use Medicare's trusted name while often denying necessary care, limiting provider networks, and overcharging taxpayers. Representative Rohana called the program a private insurance model that can mislead seniors while boosting corporate profits. Representative Mark Pokin has shared how his elderly mother was unable to see a doctor because her Medicare Advantage plan did not cover the provider. A January report by the Medicare Payment Advisory Commission estimates that overpayments to Medicare Advantage plans could reach $76 billion in 2026. Supporters say the bill would ensure transparency and protect senior benefits. An elementary school in Houston has removed a Ramadan Mubarak sign after complaints, raising fresh questions about double standards and how faith is treated in public schools. The display at Bunker Hill Elementary featured crescent moons and stars, marking the Muslim holy month. It drew objections from the Harris County chapter of the far-right conservative national organization Moms for Liberty, which claims the decorations violated district policy on religious neutrality. In 2023, President Donald Trump described Moms for Liberty as the best thing that's ever happened to America at their national conference. The Spring Branch Independent School District confirmed it received a parent complaint and directed campus leaders to take down the display because it was religious in nature. Observers say the reaction contrasts sharply with the routine acceptance of Christmas trees, Easter symbols, and Hanukkah decorations in schools. Some parents pointed out that other religious imagery has appeared in the past without controversy. The episode comes amid wider tensions in Texas, where Governor Greg Abbott has taken a hard line on Muslim advocacy groups. Analysts say these actions are deepening the debate over religious inclusion and equal treatment. Kosovo has marked the 28th anniversary of the Prikaz massacre, honoring Adam Jashari and 57 members of his family killed in March 1998. A ceremony was held at the assembly in the capital Pristina, attended by President Josa Osmani Sandrio, Speaker Albolina Hekshio, and Prime Minister Albin Kurti, along with diplomats and relatives of the Jashari family. Leaders paid tribute to Jashari, a founding commander of the Kosovo Liberation Army, describing him as a symbol of resistance during the 1998 and 1999 war. Between March 5th and 7th, 1998, Serbian forces surrounded the Jashari compound in Prikaz, killing 58 people. The massacre became a turning point, leading to NATO's 1999 intervention. Kosovo declared independence from Serbia in 2008. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.